Hi everybody, I'm Tim Cave, and it's a great pleasure to be speaking to you today. So Rory from Amgen has had to rush off for something else, so we've changed the agenda around a little bit, so it falls to me to liven things up after lunch. And so we're going to be speaking about how to use educational meetings to engage HCPs through virtual meetings in order to increase the relationships with them, increase loyalty, and improve trust. So I recently left GSK, and whilst I was there, I was leading the medical team in digital, and I was working with the commercial teams, and we were delivering schedules by therapy area of different virtual meetings every day. So now I'm with SaySo. We're a company that provides a service to pharmaceutical companies providing virtual events in order to share knowledge and share ideas. So what I'm going to do is, we've been hearing some of the challenges that companies face in this space, so I'll be able to share some of that with you and suggest some solutions. So, we know this. What do actual doctors want from pharmaceutical companies? Of course, they want us to develop new drugs, they want to supply the drugs, supply services around them, but also, of course, provide information. Now, doctors at the moment are finding gathering information tough. They're short of time, they have more and more complex patients to manage. They don't have enough time to actually read all the written data that they receive because there's a large amount of it, and they're unable to get to the conferences for a host of different reasons, including lack of budget, lack of time. So at the same time as that, within the pharma companies, of course, we've heard about this morning, the amount of access we have to doctors has been falling. Most companies want to improve trust, and most companies want to improve the relationships as well. So we've got an opportunity here because doctors currently spend about 12 hours per week looking for new information online. And of those doctors, 70% by next year will be digital natives. And at the same time, of those doctors, over 80% are looking for more online conferences. So it's not surprising that over half the companies are now investing more in such conferences. Now, in that space, the technology is not the tough part. It's how do we actually implement these different ideas and ways of working to make sure that they stick across the company. So I'm going to talk through this cycle from how we're gathering the insights, to how those feed into the strategy, how the strategies then feed the content and the mix of the different channels through which we're providing it, what discussions then flow from that, and then of course the insights flow back in again. So if we look at a little bit more detail about insights first of all, I think we've never had such an opportunity in terms of the amount of customer data we're gathering in and the amount of scientific insights and qualitative insights we're getting. But how do we compile all that? And that is, of course, I think what Amazon, Google, and Apple are all so good at. Because with that chance of gathering all of that data, there's increased complexity. So this is some of the challenges that we've seen. And do you have a strategy of what insights you're wanting? Do you know at what stage of development you want to be asking particular questions? Is everybody clear and aligned on those particular questions? Then of what markets are you going to be asking those questions, and what individuals are you going to ask the questions? What process do you have in place to do that? And as all of that information comes back in again, that's going to be raw data. So how do you turn those data into actionable insights? And where do you store it all? Because if you don't have a way of storing it and a system to store all that information and insight, then different teams across the business are going to be repeating those same questions and those same challenges again and again, either across time as the drug is developed, or across different teams which are looking at the same particular therapy area and disease area. So as those insights feed into the strategy, and the strategy informs the content, particularly around the strategy for content. That I'm aware that most companies, multi-channel approach is absolutely business as usual. But in order to make it really sustainable and scalable, that's quite tough. And have we got the right mix, which is embedded across the whole organisation in terms of what's traditional and what's digital touch points, and what's the right balance at the right stage for the right product? That gets more difficult. And so these data I think are quite interesting from McKinsey, that highlights just that culture is the most significant self-reported barrier to digital effectiveness, closely followed by a lack of understanding of digital trends. Another area which I think we touched on this morning is about the customer experience and just how important that is. And these data from Pharma just, way out ahead in terms of these other areas and just the importance of that customer experience. But of course, if we don't have the right culture in place and the right approach across the business and the change management in place, then that becomes more difficult. If we move on to the content and the channels through which it's delivered. So, interesting that doctors see that 72% of them aren't satisfied with the actual content that they've got or they're receiving from us. And over 80% are not satisfied with the channels through which they're receiving it. So, what's changed here? I think that, first of all, the interactions are much more self-directed, perhaps about 70%, where customers don't interact with a rep, and the live events are becoming far more popular. And interesting here as well, that on the left of the screen is how important the channels are to the doctors, and on the right is how important the pharma companies seeing them. Now, I don't expect you to read all the little detail there because it's far too small. But if you look at the on-demand and virtual meetings, there's a complete mismatch of what the doctors want and what we're thinking is important for them. And in terms of channels, these are some interesting data from ZS that look at the impact of the different channels. And at the orange bar, you'll see the impact of a rep's call. So above that, 135% of the impact of that is a virtual meeting, and 5 times as much if you've got a face-to-face scientific meeting. So there's an opportunity to combine those two, because you can have, of course, satellite meetings and webcast in speakers into your face-to-face meetings, which can be of particular value. So what are the benefits of these virtual meetings? Well, I think we're pretty clear that it's highly convenient for the doctors. They can get access to speakers they wouldn't have otherwise have had access to, perhaps otherwise they'd had to get on a plane. And they can revisit the content afterwards, which is so important for them, particularly if they missed the event in the first place. And from the company's point of view, it's a great way to increase the reach and in terms of the actual depth of the relationship we're having and the number of touch points we get. Very cost-effective model, and therefore that allows us to keep on engaging and improve the relationship with each HCP. So how are we getting on with this? And I'm aware that lots of different companies have got different views on this. Some think it's more or less important. And some therefore are not doing any, some are just at the stage of planning. and some have got them implemented, as I said, on a daily schedule in different markets around the world. So this is where I just wanted you to put in your opinion. And so just a simple one, if you log on to this website, sli.do, you can put in your opinion of where you're at with virtual meetings. And on the screen on your phone or on your laptop, you'll be able to see the results. So hopefully I'll be able to have a look here, see what everybody's saying. Okay, so it's quite a nice spread actually, isn't it? So I'll give you a minute, just a few more seconds to give us your opinion. So, yeah, look, I'm seeing a pretty even spread apart from those on a daily schedule. So none, about 30%, planning also 22%, regular virtual meetings in key markets 25%. So, interesting developments. Now, here is some data that I asked of a similar conference a couple of years ago. So if you keep those data up on your phone and compare it with this, I think we've moved on over the last couple of years. Still about a third, interestingly, don't see that there's, or for whatever reason are not doing them, but certainly the rest, those who are, have moved on from the planning stage into the implementation. So here's a bit more information about why different people haven't embraced this perhaps as much as you might think. And the key piece is that the current model isn't working, and so why approach something else? Now, the interesting thing with that is that for those companies who have tried it, who are now seeing the success, I wonder how we'll be, we've talked in 5 years' time, and how that'll then look in terms of who's seeing the success for this sort of type of meeting. Okay, now if we just talk a little bit about the actual discussion and what comes out of that and what insights we can gather. So we know what doctors want at these meetings, the virtual meetings. They want content which helps them treat their patients. They want engaging information which helps educate them. And they want to hear that from somebody who they respect and who's actually good at delivering that sort of information in front of a camera, because it's all very well talking in front of a live audience, but it's rather a different thing, particularly if there's no audience immediately in front of you, and they want the production standards to be high. They want it to be convenient. They want it on, so login to be super easy and available on whatever device that they use. And they want it to be interactive, so they can ask questions, and that's the key thing. They can ask questions of the speaker that they wouldn't have had access to, but they want to also discuss with their peers. So that's what we do. We help companies make that easy to make these virtual meetings happen and deliver what the HCPs want. So here's some of the learnings that have come out of this. Firstly, reaching the audience. In order to do that, it's a lot of project management that goes into it to make sure it really happens and make it a really successful event. A very cross-functional approach as well, with using all the different obvious channels of mass email, banner adverts, but particularly important to work with the sales force and the MSL teams in order to deliver the invites. Format of the meeting, whether it's to satellite venues or remote, is it translated, and the cadence within the meeting, avoiding large sort of monologues of information, but making it highly interactive so people can ask those questions. The content, I think I've spoken about, and minimizing risk. So, of course, there's the technical risk. So so that everybody actually has a great experience of it from this audio and the sound point of view, but also the more compliance type risks, and making that super easy to get the content approved rapidly so it's responsive to all the different markets we'll be attending. And maybe most important is post-event, how we get the on-demand material available immediately after the meeting so people can really engage with that after it, and it can be repurposed and reused where the value can really be. So also just about what happens afterwards, that how important it is. 73% of HCPs indicate a high to medium demand for interactive video-based learning afterwards, but only 19% delivering it. So again, a bit of a mismatch there in terms of what people are asking for and what people are getting. So look, in summary, I think virtual meetings are a great way to really engage with HCPs through these educational events. They're asking for more, and it's a highly impactful way of engaging with them. So thank you. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. No, if not, so thank you very much.